Sanders has vowed to stay in the race until next month's Democratic National Convention, even as Hillary Clinton is on the verge of clinching the nomination. And she soon may receive a very big endorsement. The New York Times is reporting that President Obama could formally endorse Clinton's candidacy as early as this week. Until now, the president has largely been silent about who he would support, mostly focusing the criticism on the presumptive Republican nominee, Donald Trump. The math is also on Clinton's side heading into the final 6 primary contests. Over the weekend, she won the Democratic primaries in the U.S. Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, bringing her just shy of the 2,383 delegates needed to win the nomination. Earlier, I spoke with CBSN political contributors Leslie Sanchez and Linda Tran about how a big President Obama endorsement would be for Secretary Clinton.
Look, the president's support could be huge, especially when you take a look at the landscape to date, right? So if we're concerned about party unity, President Obama is the ideal person to help bring everybody back together after a pretty contentious Democratic primary. Similarly, she has been most challenged in attracting and engaging millennial age voters. And again, this is a group where President Obama could be a real asset to her. So this could be really huge.
Linda, going into the convention, how important is it for Secretary Clinton to say that she earned the nomination because of the pledge delegates and remove the possible argument that others have been making that she was given the nomination through the use of the superdelegates?
Well, it's important enough that you're hearing a number of her campaign surrogates out on the trail today talking about their expectation that come tomorrow before the polls close, or by the time the polls close, that she will also have a majority in pledge delegates. But the reality is, if you look at the landscape, she has won 3 million more votes. She has nearly 300 more pledge delegates right now. And then, of course, she's got those 500 plus superdelegates who have also made clear that they're supporting her. So we have to be clear that tomorrow is really not about the arithmetic at all, right? It's about the optics. And so, you know, if it turns out that Bernie Sanders squeaks by in a win in California, that's a challenge. She wants to be in as strong of a position as possible, and she wants to be able to make the case that the nomination, which we know she has by all other measures, other traditional measures, won, is hers and hers alone.
Leslie, your take on that, because if Senator Sanders does squeak out a win in California tomorrow, it makes his decision, his argument that he should stay in the race until the convention much stronger.
Absolutely. And part of that, I think they're going to be looking at the numbers, what kind of, again, millennial support that they get. But also one area they're going to focus on is this Latino vote issue. In 2008, she had about 68% of the Hispanic support. And right now, she's showing it barely 50%. That's a significant problem because just like Nevada, you're seeing young ethnic millennials are breaking with the traditional kind of establishment Democratic Party and want something different, like the appeal of Bernie Sanders. And it's significant fissures on the Democratic side. To speak to the Republican.
Right,
but it's certainly an important step that the president's moving forward to try to take that Obama coalition, young people, enthusiasm they had then, and see if they can move them over across the line.
This is a question that I think a lot of people are wondering about now, because people recognize that what Senator Sanders has done here is absolutely remarkable. He has ignited a very, very strong movement in this country. The question is, by staying in the race past this primary that we're going to see tomorrow, even if he wins by a very slim majority, that he could do some damage to Secretary Clinton when it comes to a head-to-head with Donald Trump.
Depends where your perspective is. If you are someone who's extremely frustrated with the party, that you want to see a change in the political platform in terms of what he's done is move the country left of center even more than they wanted to be in the Democratic coalition, then it doesn't behoove you to get out any earlier than to take it to convention, argue about the platform, and really make a significant point in changing that conversation and the optics of what the new Democratic Party looks like. Is it younger? Is it engaged? Does it speak to a lot of these issues, especially on income inequality? That's what you're arguing for if you're a Bernie Sanders supporter or someone who's just so frustrated with politics as usual.
All right, let's turn to Donald Trump. He continues to face significant backlash over his comments about a judge overseeing a Trump University lawsuit. He's repeatedly said that Judge Gonzalo Curiel cannot be impartial because of his Mexican heritage. The judge was born in Indiana. His parents are Mexican immigrants to the United States. On Face the Nation, John Dickerson asked Mr. Trump for an explanation. Take a listen.
How does his Mexican parents have to do with him not ruling for you?
He's a member of a club or society very strongly pro-Mexican, which is all fine. But I say he's got bias. I want to build a wall.
If it were a Muslim judge, would you also feel like they wouldn't be able to treat you fairly because of that policy of yours?
It's possible, yes. Yeah, that would be possible, absolutely.
So Sunday, then, Newt Gingrich, former Speaker of the House, told Fox News' Chris Wallace that Trump's comments are inexcusable.
This is one of the worst mistakes Trump has made, and I think it's inexcusable. He has every right to criticize a judge, and he has every right to say certain decisions aren't right, and his attorneys can file to move the venue from the judge. But first of all, this judge was born in Indiana. He is an American, period. Trump has got to, I think, move to a new level. This is no longer the primaries. He's no longer an interesting contender. He is now the potential leader of the United States, and he's got to move his game up to the level of being a potential leader.
All right, Leslie, Newt Gingrich has been a strong supporter of Donald Trump. Now you're seeing him backing away from this comment. You've seen Speaker Ryan backing away from it, Lindsey McConnell. The question is, Donald Trump said once he clinched the nomination, he was going to become more presidential. That's what all of his supporters have been saying, all of the Republicans that are falling into line to support his candidacy. But clearly, he has not only doubled down, he has tripled down on comments that are odious to many Americans in this country, that somebody who is of Mexican descent but born in this country cannot be impartial, even though that is his constitutional responsibility to do so. What does this say about the Trump candidacy?
I think it says a lot about the Republican Party. I think this is death by a million cuts, and it does not end there. If we think back to the time that the lowest point in the Republican primary was when it was seen that kind of this dog whistle to the KKK movement come on into the campaign headquarters, and this kind of race baiting that was this undercurrent throughout the primary, and they push back, then the violence starts happening, and there was a pushback on all of that because there were robocalls going into some of these states that sounded very xenophobic, very protectionist, and very racist. And he pushed back against that. Everybody kind of calmed down, and here we are having these same ridiculous conversations again. This type of conversation was very consistent in American politics in the 1950s before the Civil Rights Movement. There's absolutely, not only with former Speaker Newt Gingrich, but many Republicans, senators, governors, all the way down ballot are terrified, and it's absolutely ludicrous. Like, it doesn't belong anywhere in the national conversation. To say somebody's gender, ethnicity, or race is going to not allow them to have judicial impartiality is absolutely nonsensical to American politics and basically our judicial system. So I think we're in a very bad situation in terms of how we move forward and how the Trump campaign is actually going to legitimately respond to this.
It's certainly something we're going to be watching. Leslie Sanchez, thank you very much. Linda Tran, also, thank you so much for joining us. And be sure to stick with CBSN tomorrow as 6 states cast their votes: California, Montana, New Jersey, New Mexico, North Dakota, South Dakota. CBSN will have full coverage of it all. That's Tuesday, June 7th, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern.